medical to liberal arts to consulting and now into the world of venture capital.
Welcome everyone to Investors Edge powered by SNL. Our guest today is Aditya Nidmarti, an investor at Bessemer Venture Partners, a legendary venture capital firm with a century-long history of supporting groundbreaking startups. Aditya specializes in fintech, data infrastructure, developer tools, and consumer fintech. He is also a diverse thinker with investments spanning across various tech sectors. Beyond his work, Aditya is an enthusiast of soccer, cricket, Formula One, and aviation. Today, we'll delve into Aditya's journey, Bessemer Venture Partners' unique approach to VC, and how startups can catch their attention.
From medical to liberal arts to consulting and now into the world of venture capital. It does seem that you have an evolving career that moves as the trends move. And somehow it also reflects in your investment philosophy. You have invested in every upcoming trend, including fintech, Web3, crypto, and you keep yourself up to date with what's the latest. So we wanted to know, like with this wide range of technology sectors, what trends or industries are the ones that you particularly find exciting right now?
Yeah, so maybe let me just back up a little and tell you more about my investment philosophy, and then we can come to what areas pique my interest now. So, my investment philosophy is that I'm a generalist for life, and my experience shows that. But I'm a periodic expert, or I like to believe I'm a periodic expert in certain areas. And those areas are dynamically changing with times and sort of what's working now and what isn't working now. So, the areas that I'm most focused on now are mainly threefold, and they're very diverse from one another. So the first area is cybersecurity. I have a bunch of investments in cybersecurity. I think the broader problem area of cybersecurity will only increase, and the number of solutions maybe might increase, but there'll also be some consolidation. But we can get into that later. But cybersecurity is one area I'm really focused on. The other area I like is software, B2B software. But there are some nuances I like to focus on. One of the easiest nuance that I like to focus on is easy distribution. So you take HubSpot as an example, or you take Freshworks as an example, or you take Zoho as an example. The products are very easily distributable, so your TAM is very large because you can be in one country and access customers in virtually any part of the world without having salespeople on the ground there. And that all comes from the way the product has been designed, where it's easily distributable. But when a product is easily distributable, you can also build many other products along the way, in some ways creating a platform. So if you go on Zoho's website or Freshworks' website or HubSpot website, you'll probably see 10 different product categories: a marketing hub, a sales hub, a service desk hub, and whatnot. And you can just build suites of products which are easily distributable, in some ways creating a platform. So those kinds of software companies, I really like. Those companies might not look like that when I'm investing at the Series A, but the question I'm asking myself is it possible for a company like this to have 5, 6, 7 products? And you probably share the same experience from Datadog, which has 5 or 6 different kinds of products across different use cases, whether it's application monitoring, whether it's infrastructure monitoring, whatnot.
Exactly.
And the last area that I really like, which is a newer area I've been looking into, is autonomous robotics. So I made my first autonomous robotics investment in a company called Anybotics, which is based out of Zurich. And we mainly made that investment based on first principles. It's a good business, it's a good team, it's a good product. But after making that investment, it somewhere clicked to us that autonomous robotics is actually artificial intelligence in the physical world. There's all this, the buzz around artificial intelligence, but many people think about it from a digital sense. ChatGPT works on your computer; it's a digital app. But what if you just take artificial intelligence and put it in the physical world? The manifestation of that is autonomous robotics or autonomous vehicles and whatnot. And so that is another area that we're really focused on. And we can dive into it, but these are 3 areas. SaaS solutions that are easily distributable, but can easily become platforms as well by becoming multi-product, cybersecurity, and autonomous robotics. And as I said, these
Yeah,
are periodic areas of focus, but they will change over time.
makes sense. AI for the physical world. I really like that, the way of thinking that you have here. Uh, So starkly opposite, Bessemer actually has a history dating back to innovations in steel. So that's a good
Yeah.
mix. You're looking into the future and working in a company that has been actually one of the oldest VC firms in the world. How does this historical influence have on Bessemer and the way you approach venture capital today?
Yeah, it's the way I think about it is you're only as good as your last investment. So even if our firm has a very storied history and we've been in business for over 100 years, we've been in business for that long because most of our recent investments have worked. So it's nice to think about the heritage, but there's a job to do today and make good investments today so that the legacy of the firm can still last for many more generations that will come. And we have lasted so long by having the best people in the game, by investing in a lot of people. And I can also talk more about how we think about our talent internally. But the saying is, we're only as good as the last investment. So you have a job to do today, and you have to make the best possible investments in the present.
Totally. Actually, can you share a bit more about the investment thesis that Bessemer follows and its focus areas, its sweet spot in terms of the stages or domains that it prefers?
Bessemer is one of the oldest venture capital firms in the world. Our history dates back to 1911, as you rightly pointed out. The founder of Bessemer comes from the Carnegie Steel Company. His name is Henry Phipps, and that's the history. Where we are today is a global venture capital firm. We have 9 offices across the world, 5 in the US, one in London, which is where I'm based. We have Israel, India, as well as Hong Kong. So it's a global firm. And the reason we are global is we fundamentally believe that innovation in the world of technology is a global phenomenon. And I'd like to just highlight how that is true. So you go back to the 1920s and 30s and you take the car industry as an example. Ford was the leading car manufacturer. And the reason they were the leading car manufacturer is because they had figured out the assembly line to mass manufacture cars. And not many companies in the world had figured that out. And that's the reason Ford was just far ahead against any of their competitors. But as soon as the assembly line technology diffused across the world, you had car companies in Germany, car companies in Japan, and it sort of became a global phenomenon. If you use the same analogy in the world of technology as we know it, whether it's software, hardware, it all dates back to the transistor that was formed in the US. And technology based on the transistor was hardware, which happened in Silicon Valley because the silicon, which is the transistor or chips, came up in Silicon Valley. On top of the hardware, you had the software. On top of the software, you had networking, which is the internet, and so on and so forth. That's the reason Silicon Valley had such a big advantage when it came to this kind of technology and companies that were built on this kind of technology. But that technology is diffusing across the world. Companies in India or China easily have access to cloud instances via AWS. You have easy access to the App Store to build apps and distribute them on an ecosystem that's global. And that's the reason technology innovation is becoming global. And that's the reason Bessemer as a firm is global. We can't be dogmatic and say that we'll only be in New York or we'll only be in Silicon Valley and find those companies in Europe or Israel or India. We have to be on the ground in these pockets where innovation is happening and work with entrepreneurs in those geographies locally to build big businesses. So that's the global premise we have. We say that we want to be where entrepreneurs are. We don't want to call entrepreneurs to where we are. In terms of where we focus, I'll maybe backtrack and tell you a little bit about the fund. So we're roughly a $3 billion fund. Most of our capital goes towards early stage, which is a little different from many of our peers. So 80% of our capital goes towards early stage. Maybe 20% goes towards growth stage. Many of our peers have it opposite, where
Opposite.
80% is towards growth and 20% is towards early, because we really want to work with entrepreneurs right from the early stages, build big companies alongside them. And it's like we want to ride shotgun with entrepreneurs who are in the driver's seat. That's the way we think of ourselves. And so our median investment round is a Series A. I think that's really where we like to focus, where things have begun to work, but they really don't work. And you need to build a team around the initial product. You have to get salespeople. Maybe you have to expand geographically. I work out of London, so I invest in many companies in Europe. And many of those software companies eventually want to scale to the States. So you need to have a team here. You need to figure out how you're going to compete with your United States competitors and whatnot. So the Series A is really, at least my sweet spot. I have colleagues who go a sort of Series B and beyond, and some of my colleagues also do seed. But that doesn't mean I would not do a seed investment or I would not do a Series B investment. Just that the median round is a Series A investment, and it's
That's
anywhere between 10 and $15 million.
That's a good approach, and with a firm that's as global and as huge as Bessemer, it makes sense. On top of it, Bessemer, of course, has an impressive portfolio with companies like Pinterest, Shopify, LinkedIn, whatnot. Uh, you talked about internal talent. Of course, we know they hire the best, but can you share more insights on how they identify and nurture such successful ventures?
Yeah, so a good way to think about BVP's talent model is we believe that investors can be trained and made versus investors being born or coming out of operations roles. Because there's been this notion in the world of VC that you have to be an entrepreneur or an operator to be a great VC, and that holds true. The level of empathy an entrepreneur turned VC has for a fellow entrepreneur is very different from how me as a trained VC thinks about things. Um, but the fact is that both those approaches can work in terms of finding successful investments and doing that consistently. Just the approach and the way you think about things is slightly different. So we believe in the fact that investors can be trained from the scratch by giving them all the information in terms of pattern recognition. So meet 1,000 companies, meet 2,000 companies, understand what works, what doesn't, and you can use that as a good toolkit to see where the world might be going and what kinds of investments work. And once you work with 10, 15, 20 entrepreneurs, you also get a flavor of what entrepreneurs you want to work with, what entrepreneurs you like enjoying working with. Because it's not only a game of pattern recognition, it's also a game of believing in the entrepreneur, believing in the team, hoping that they will navigate all the odds and come out on top. And no market pattern recognition or product pattern recognition can help solve for that. But if you do the job long enough, you can do it consistently well. That's the belief. So with that in mind, most of the people at the top level at BVP have either come into BVP as an analyst or as an associate and have risen through the firm. So we have this culture of nurturing talent from within the firm. And I'd say 90% of all the investing partners have either joined the firm as an associate or as an analyst. Because you come in, you do all the repetitions of meeting companies, meeting entrepreneurs, understanding what works, understanding what doesn't work, and we call it the apprenticeship model. So we make GPs partner with associates slash VPs, and it's a group of two, and they both are responsible for investing a particular amount of money. Um, and that also ties back into the fact that we have no investment committee. So many venture firms are based on the fact that they have an IC. You think of it like the Security Council, where these 5 people or 10 people have veto power. They can push deals away or they can accept deals. We don't have that. We have a flat structure. We raise a fund and we distribute the money to different GPs, obviously based on tenure, based on performance. And it's that GP's responsibility to productively invest that capital. But there is no veto where other people can easily turn down deals. They give feedback that, okay, you might be missing this, or this did not work in the past. Why do you think this might work now? But ultimately, the ball is in the court of that GP to either pursue or not pursue that investment.
I
And that has
see.
also allowed our firm to scale across the world. Because take an example where our colleagues from Hong Kong are bringing a deal. What do I know sitting in London what really works in Hong Kong or Southeast Asia? I can understand certain trends that might have worked in the West, but those markets are so different. So it's unfair for me to have veto power to turn down that deal. I can give feedback, but ultimately the ball should be in that colleague's court to pursue or not pursue that investment. And so that GP and their associate, senior associate or VP together productively manage that book of capital. So that's the way we are structured internally.
That's very interesting. Like it really encourages individual contribution, and as you said, an independent mindset into understanding what works locally or what works in your specific area of expertise. So
Exactly.
no doubt, yeah, that's why such an impressive portfolio. Another question I had around that is, Bessemer of course supports companies through capital at Series A mostly, but what about like other stages of growth and other sort of resources? Do you offer mentorship, guidance? What should startups expect when they hear from BVP about investments?
Yeah, the way I like to think about it is if I make an investment in a company, I take the board seat. And once I take the board seat, we tell entrepreneurs that you can get plugged into the Bessemer matrix. And this matrix is a network of whoever you might want to connect with. You're trying to expand to the US, you need to speak to go-to-market leaders who might have made the jump from, let's say, a company in Netherlands to the US. We can connect you with those folks. You want to decide, you want to go from an outbound led sales model to an inbound led sales model. We can make you speak to go-to-market leaders who have done that. And we just have a vast network of all these leaders, either from our portfolio companies that might have gone public, like Shopify, Twilio, whatnot, or other companies that we might have connections with who might not be Bessemer investments. But we have this matrix of people we can connect you with. And it's my job as a board member to suggest that when I hear something happening at a board meeting where I'm like, okay, I know this is true. I know this company has done it. I know this person at that company has done it. You should speak to him.
I see.
The other thing that I think as a board member is really important is recruiting. We really help with recruiting. We have an entire talent team that sits in San Francisco that's internal to Bessemer, that's scouring the world for the best talent, either leaving our portfolio companies or leaving other companies we are close to. And whenever a need arises at one of our portfolio companies, I'm like, I know this person is leaving, or we have heard from our team in San Francisco that a CFO from London is looking for a new gig locally. I'll connect you with them. And not only connect you with them, we also, as a board member, it's our responsibility to recruit them and sell them on the vision that this company is really doing well. We are backing this company with a long-term view. Do you want to ride on that journey with us? And so I think that that's really helpful. And we also have internal forums. So the two best forums we have internally is the CFO forum and the CISO forum. And so it's all of our CFOs from all of our different companies interacting together, and all of the different CISOs interacting together. So we're trying to create this network of people within BVP who can learn from one another, share insights with one another, which can help all of our portfolio companies grow and achieve whatever they have to achieve. But as a board member, on an individual level, I'm really just helping my portfolio companies, founders and CEOs and leaders connect with other people who might have done what they are attempting to do, as well as recruit the best talent to come work for those companies to achieve the visions they have.
I see. I mean, the startups we work with, these are the most important challenges that you just mentioned, networking and recruiting. And if someone as BPP is helping them, has their back, then I'm sure they're going to be super impressed. What advice would you have for them if they're looking to get noticed by BVP and be selected for investments?
Just reach out. I think we are always eager to meet entrepreneurs. We understand the hustle that entrepreneurs are going through. We understand what challenges they have, and the least we can do is speak to them and give them honest thoughts on what we think about their companies. Right? We're not here to hand wave and give some sort of false validation. I'm as truthful as I can be. There are some things I don't like, and I will tell you why I don't like them. Not saying that it won't work, but just saying that I've seen this 20 times in the past and it's not worked for this reason. What do you think about it? And even when I'm investing in companies, I call the journey between meeting a company and making the investment a truth-seeking journey. I'm trying to just get to the bottom of every last possible truth that there is. And it also drives into one of the core values we have here, which is intellectual honesty. Each fact, even if it goes against what you're believing, I'm really excited about cybersecurity, but there can be something that really doesn't work. And I'm internalizing that fact as something that might not work while still being excited about cybersecurity, as an example. So whenever I meet founders and entrepreneurs, and your viewers should feel free to reach out, um, I will be as honest as I can with them about everything that they're thinking about.
I see. Any memorable success story or lessons that you've learned from your investments in the portfolio that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I've been in the industry for 4 years. Usually, a startup takes about 6 to 7 years to mature and see sort of what the outcome is. So it would not be fair for me to say that I have successes, right? It's still work in progress. You still want to see your companies mature. There's some companies that are working some companies that have challenges, and we see what happens out of these companies. It's very hard to say in year one or year two after making an investment how this company is going to turn out 5, 6 years down the road. There's some companies that looked pretty bad the first 3 years and they turned a leaf and started growing and things changed. And there's some companies that looked amazing and something happened for the worse and they didn't end up being where we thought they would end up in the first 2 years. So it would not be fair to comment on successes, but the firm has had successes. There's a lot to learn from veterans who are here. And let's see where some of the investments that I've made go from here.
That's interesting because you were looking for like this original kind of roller coaster life, and startups offer you exactly that. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
a bit about diversity and inclusion. There's a law in California now that you need to publish your numbers on how diverse or inclusive your VC firm is. What steps is Bessemer taking to create a more inclusive environment and ecosystem?
Yeah, so we are just trying to source founders from everywhere. And that's how I think we solve for diversity. So if you look at our investments, they come from every part of the world. Shopify is a company from Ottawa. Who was even looking at Ottawa in 2010? Everyone was saying go to San Francisco. We have companies from the Czech Republic. There was a company I was part of that just exited a couple of days back. The founders from the Czech Republic. And so I think the way we solve for diversity is just having a very diverse pool of companies that we're looking at. And that happens to be from a geographic standpoint, but also from a background standpoint. We're not hell bent on having only engineers as founders, or we're not hell bent on having only MBAs as founders. That would be unfair. So it's in that way, I think we solve for diversity.
That's interesting. And one thing that caught my intrigue during our conversation is how do you stay informed about this rapidly changing technology landscape? Things change so quickly, and how do you stay up to date? And how does this influence your strategy overall?
So many people have different ways of doing it. I'll share perhaps the way I do it. As I said, there are 3 or 4 areas that I'm at any time excited about, and those areas are changing. But whenever I know those areas, I spend at least 2, 3 hours a week speaking to practitioners in those areas. So I have calls with CISOs, I have calls with engineers at robotics companies, I have calls with maybe customers of robotics companies to understand what broad problem areas still exist. And in that way, I have a prepared mind about the problem areas. So whenever a company comes up in the future that's addressing a problem, I'm very known to, it clicks. Because I'm like, okay, I've heard this problem 10 times from CISOs. I've heard from customers of robotics that this is what they want in a robot. Or I've heard from marketers that they really want to connect data from Salesforce to update the marketing app, as an example. So whenever a solution comes up that's addressing a problem area that's not been solved, I understand that, okay, there is something here. So in a sense, I'm just keeping myself up to date with unsolved problems in the areas I'm most excited by. So whenever a solution comes up that's addressing one of those problems I'm aware of, I get excited automatically, instantly.
I think that's the right way, connecting with the customer or the end consumer. From a VC point of view, that's a very unique standpoint. We haven't seen that often, but it's a
You as a
short
product
way.
manager, you as a product manager
That's,
probably would be
yeah,
doing
we,
that.
we thrive on that. We live on that. Don't take away our jobs.
But see, exactly, right? Because product managers can be product leaders, can be CEOs. They're building products because they've heard pain points or problem areas from potential customers. And we also want to be abreast with that. And that's the reason we keep doing these calls with practitioners.
Interesting. Makes sense. I think final question. What advice would you have for our listeners and people who want to start their own firm or are already hustling with their startup? How do they get investments? And generally, how should they look at their journey from a VC point of view?
The way I like to think about it is the premise of an entrepreneur is to build a business, not raise money. A lot of the times, people mistake success with raising money. And that's the reason I have a bone to pick with things like big, flashy announcements. Oh, we raised the Series A, or we raised the Series B, or we raised the Series C. In some ways, you sold your company and you sort of took away some of the upside you could have had when the company gets big. And our job as VCs is to fund that journey. But when you fund it, the journey begins at that point. The journey has not ended. And so the premise is building a very, very strong business while having a mission at the same time. And we come in to help you in that mission, to help you in that journey. But we are not the end all be all. We are the means to the end, but the end is something that's totally different. And I think that is what many entrepreneurs sometimes miss, because the entire notion around VC is that that is the end all be all. When you raise a series A or you raise a series B or you raise a series E, that is what success means. But that, in my opinion, is not really what it means. Really, what it means is use that money to build a self-sustaining business where the revenues minus cost is something positive and that's growing over time. And if we can help you in that vision, our jobs will be the most productive. Our money will be most productively used.
For sure, fun for sure. Like this obsession with fundraising is something that can be detrimental to your actual startup, your actual business. And as they say, like for every 10 startups that are, making that announcement, 90 are building in silence and making it big.
They're talking
And
to
fundraising,
customers, they're selling to
yeah, exactly.
customers, and they're doing all the core things that a business must do. And sometimes they're like, we really need money because we can see an opportunity, we need to build this product, or we need to hire this person. And that's when VC money is most productively used. When you really feel the burning need that this
Exactly.
needs to be done and you don't have money for it, and that's when we come in.
Yep. Makes sense. And fundraising is just the beginning to this awesome journey ahead.
Yeah, exactly.